Hey everyone, you're watching Kino episode, and this is the series, The Last Frontier. An ambush. Don't move! The command echoes through the cold air. A convoy arrives at the plane. It's transporting a group of dangerous prisoners. They're all being moved inside the aircraft, but one of them is different. Havelock? He's shackled with extra chains, wearing a metal mask and dark goggles, so no one could tell who exactly he is. 2 personal guards are assigned to him, never letting him out of sight. Moments later, Havelock quietly pulls out one of his own teeth. Inside it, a hidden lockpick. He begins to work on his restraints slowly, carefully. Then, a sudden explosion. The engine's gone. The pilots immediately call for an emergency landing. Meanwhile, chaos spreads inside. Prisoners are dying one by one. One of them manages to steal the guard's keys, but he's instantly sucked out through a hole in the fuselage. Before that, Havelock snatches the keys from his hand. The guards see he's free. They rush toward him, but Havelock takes them down effortlessly, fighting off several men at once. The rear flaps fail, and everyone is thrown toward the ceiling by the force. Clinging to a seat, Havelock crawls toward the cockpit, but it's too late. The plane crashes in a frozen wasteland. Thanks to the snow, the landing isn't instantly fatal. Some prisoners survive and scatter into the wild. Far away in Alaska, Federal Marshal Frank lives a peaceful life with his wife Sarah and their son Luke. Frank tells Sarah that the government finally approved the house they've dreamed about for years. He's ready to retire, to finally live a quiet, safe life far away from danger. But peace never lasts long. At work, his colleague, Jane, informs him that firefighters reported strange smoke in the nearby mountains. No one knows what caused it. She asks the marshals to fly over and check it out. Frank agrees. Soon they locate the crash site, a wrecked plane torn apart by the snow and wind. When they check inside, it's empty. Only broken chains remain. Frank instantly realizes what this means. The plane was transporting prisoners. Moments later, they find a wounded officer lying in the snow near the wreckage. Barely conscious, he warns them. It's a trap. Suddenly, from the forest, a dozen escaped convicts appear. They charge straight at the marshals. Frank fights fiercely, using every bit of his training to stay alive. But one of the convicts pulls a knife and stabs Donnie, one of Frank's men. Frank reacts in a flash. He draws his gun and eliminates the threat with deadly precision. The marshals drag Donnie back to the helicopter, while Frank holds the line, surrounded and outnumbered. Bullets fly, snow bursts in the air, chaos everywhere. One massive inmate tackles Frank to the ground, almost knocking him out. But another survivor steps in, shooting the attacker just in time. The man can barely see. His glasses are broken, his vision blurred. He doesn't even realize who saved him. Frank helps him up and pulls him into the chopper. As the last survivors climb aboard, the pilot Fred lifts off. A desperate prisoner grabs onto the landing gear, forcing Frank to demonstrate his version of tough love. With one brutal kick, he sends the convict falling into the white abyss below. Meanwhile, far away, the news of the plane crash reaches Bradford, a high-ranking intelligence officer. She instantly realizes something's wrong. Their secret operation has been exposed. Bradford contacts Schofield, another key agent, because it was she who once created Havelock. Later, Bradford confesses. They captured Havelock in Russia and were secretly transporting him to Alaska. But somehow, someone found out about the mission. There's a problem. The CIA has no official jurisdiction in that region, so Schofield can't reveal too much to the local marshals. She calls Frank, asking him to secure the perimeter. Frank can't help but laugh. There's no perimeter in Alaska, he says. Back at the crash site, the rescued officer tells Frank what really happened, how dangerous Havelock truly is. He describes him as if he were a force of nature, a man who knew the moment his feet touched the ground, he would be free. The marshals set up a search camp, gathering every piece of information they can find. At least 18 prisoners are missing. When Schofield finally meets Frank in person, he starts asking the question she tries to avoid. Why was the CIA secretly transporting a prisoner without notifying the marshals? Why Havelock? But when Frank mentions his name, Havelock, Schofield freezes. She wasn't expecting that. If she wants Frank's cooperation, she has no choice but to tell him the truth. 3 years ago, there were rumors about a mole, someone trying to dismantle the US government from the inside. But the truth was different. The traitor was never real. He was created by the CIA as part of a covert operation. They used him as bait. a way to lure out spies from other nations. That mole was Havelock. The plan worked perfectly for 2 years, until one day Havelock went rogue. They captured him a month ago and tried to bring him back to the States. But now, with the plane crash and his escape, a new nightmare has just begun. Frank is certain Havelock isn't acting alone. Someone's helping him. Soon, new intel arrives. A storm was detected near a remote weather station, about 30 kilometers from the crash site. Frank doubts any prisoner could have made it that far on foot, but Schofield insists they must check it out. When the marshals reach the station, their doubts vanish. Havelock is there, waiting. He attacks from the shadows, striking fast and silent. Schofield orders her team to take him out immediately, but Frank stops her. He wants to try talking first, to make him surrender. Ignoring him, Schofield releases her trained dog. The animal lunges forward, knocking Havelock to the ground. He's restrained, but when they remove his mask, it's not him. Frank and Schofield exchange a cold look. Someone set them up. Back at headquarters, Schofield double-checks every document from the crash. That's when she realizes the wounded officer they rescued earlier was never an officer. The real Havelock had been among them the whole time. He knew it all along. The moment his feet touched the ground, he was free. Frank rushes to warn his wife, Sarah. But it's too late. Havelock has already moved to the next stage of his plan. By the time the marshals arrive at the hospital, Sarah and Havelock are both gone. Frank blames Schofield for everything. They could have shown him a photo of Havelock from the start. He would have recognized him. Now his wife is missing because of their secrets. From that moment, they're no longer allies. Then, out of nowhere, a voice echoes through the police radios. It's Havelock. He tells Frank that Sarah is still alive, and because of that, Frank now owes him. Havelock makes him an offer. Become his inside man, his link to the outside world. Together, he says, they'll change the system and reshape the world. The next morning, Frank's family encounters a stranger, one of the escaped convicts named Sickler. He's desperate and half-frozen, clutching a shattered prosthetic arm. Inside it, stacks of hidden cash. Sickler begs Frank for help, promising a fortune in exchange. All he wants is to be taken to the police. Frank senses there's more to the story. It turns out, Havelock isn't just another fugitive. Before escaping, he managed to steal a top-secret CIA file, a document containing the identities of all covert agents, past and future missions, and the names of every classified target. If that file is leaked, the entire intelligence network will collapse. The US government would be exposed to the world. To assist Frank, a special task force arrives from Seattle, led by Agent Koval. He's here to find out why Sickler surrendered so easily. But while the task force begins their investigation, Havelock is already several steps ahead. He knows Frank won't be home tonight. That's exactly why he's there. Inside Frank's house, Havelock sets up a camera and records a chilling message from Sarah. A forced plea for help. She begs Frank to find a man from cell 12 and trade him for her life. That man is Sickler. Once, Sickler worked for every major criminal organization in the country and stole from them all. That's why they took his hands. Now Frank interrogates him, demanding answers. How do you know Havelock? Sickler just smiles. He's not afraid. He's got his own plan. By sunset, he says he'll be long gone. Meanwhile, Sarah has had enough of being a hostage. She attacks Havelock and even manages to steal his gun. But he moves faster, calmly walks up to her, takes the weapon back, and knocks her unconscious. Later, Frank takes a man disguised as Sickler to the arranged exchange point. But it's a trap. Havelock isn't there. Instead, he ambushes the convoy transporting the black box from the crashed plane and leaves a message for Frank inside. Sarah's keys. A cruel reminder. This game has only just begun. The next day, one more fugitive is captured, but the forest still hides a dangerous pack of survivors. Among them is Havelock. He pretends to be a lost tourist, shivering in the cold, and the convicts fall for it. They take him hostage. Not far away, a real tourist group sets up camp in the same area. The convicts seize them too, turning the forest into a prison of snow and fear. Meanwhile, the police locate the place where Sarah was being held and finally free her. She's alive but weak and terrified. Back in the woods, the prisoners start to suspect something's wrong with their tourist. Then it hits them. This is the same man from the plane, the one who was chained and masked. Before they can react, Havelock strikes. Fast, precise, ruthless. Within moments, he takes them all down. The gang's leader, known as Boga Guy, realizes resistance is useless. He makes Havelock an offer. Lead them. Now in control, Havelock contacts Frank through the police radio. He tells him he purposely let Sarah go because Frank completed his last favor. But now, there's a new demand. He wants Schofield's CIA password, access to her classified account. If she refuses, Havelock will start executing hostages, one by one. To prove his point, he shoots a convict right in front of everyone. Using the radio signal, the police trace his location. Frank decides to go himself. When he arrives, Havelock greets him calmly, as if they've known each other for years. He asks, "Tell me, Frank, does Sarah know about your little secret in the basement?" Frank freezes. "What secret?" Havelock smirks. "Don't worry. I have it now, and it's very well hidden." While they talk, Schofield executes a daring move. She hooks a vehicle to a helicopter and lifts it straight into the air. The convicts panic, trying to run, but they're quickly surrounded. The chopper drops the car into position, right in front of an armed unit waiting below. But Havelock doesn't surrender. He dives out, smashing through the windshield, and disappears into the canyon below. The screen fades to black. To be continued. Who's really behind the plane crash? And what secret is Frank hiding? Write your theories in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe, because this story is far from over. See you soon, and remember, this is the last frontier.